Hello everybody, Jack here, and I am back with another MLB video. It's been a while. I think my last video was the starting pitchers, free agents, and not a lot of pitchers have signed since that video, so it'll be interesting to see how everything pans out. But today I'm just gonna do a little trade talk about the Blake Snell deal, Darvish trade, and Jose Alvarado. So first trade, Blake Snell. So Blake Snell traded to the Rays, traded to the Padres. I think it's just Blake Snell singular. There might have been another player from the Rays. Traded for Francisco Mejia. Oh God, what's that prospect? Louis Patino, and then another right-handed pitcher who was the 14th prospect in their system, who is pretty solid, and then another prospect. Can't remember who it was. So overall, let me talk about this deal. First, I'm really surprised. I knew the Rays were shopping Blake Snell, but first off, for me, it didn't make sense why they were shopping him. He's an elite pitcher. He's a top 10 pitcher, probably, in my opinion, who was on an incredible contract. I think this year was his first year of his 4-year for $40 million deal, which is just incredible for a top 10 pitcher. I mean, it just never happens. And he took that contract because he wanted to stay in St. Pete. So, that's the first reason why it doesn't make sense for me to the Rays. I mean, it's really hard for them to acquire incredibly good pitchers with their payroll, but they managed to secure him with such a team-friendly contract, yet they traded him. And for me, it doesn't make sense. Like, they traded Snell, why haven't you traded Kevin Kiermaier yet? Because his contract is the albatross, if anything. I mean, he's getting paid like $13 million a year or something like that. I mean, it's not a good contract. And he's definitely getting overpaid. And I saw rumors that, he's next to be traded, but, I don't know what teams would want Kevin Kiermaier for $13 million a year, but, we'll see. Overall, for San Diego, in this perspective, I saw a lot of people saying, like, San Diego, unloading their whole farm system to, be in second place behind the Dodgers. I thought this was a really, really good trade for them. First off, they get a number 1 ace in Snell. I think they probably already had one in Clevenger. First, you have to remember, though, he's not playing this season. And it's, in terms of for this season, it's really good because you have an ace. I mean, Lamet was probably going to be their ace coming into the season, considering Clevenger is out. So you got Lamet, you've got Darvish, which we'll get into. But, before Darvish and Snell, you had Lamet, you had Paddock, you had Lucchesi, Morhone, Davies, but he got traded, and Mackenzie Gore. So, that's a decent rotation, but it's not good enough to win a World Series. So adding Snell to the mix, that really helps. And I mean, he's a great pitcher, and he's on an incredible contract. In terms of what they gave up, they gave up Mejia, who they don't need. I mean, they've literally no need for Francisco Mejia. They have Austin Nola, they have Campusano coming up, and they also, they just got Victor Caratini. So they have no need for Mejia. I like Mejia. I think he's a good catcher. He's not a good catcher. I think he can be a really good hitter. And the Rays need to develop his catching, but great acquisition for Tampa. And the Rays don't need him. The Padres don't need him. They have Nola and Campusano is coming up. And like I said, Caratini. Then the main piece, which is Patino. So they trade Louis Patino. He was consistent top 30 on MLB for top prospects. Really well regarded. You can see why. I mean, he's got a sick fastball. Great stuff. Wasn't very good in the major leagues this year. But, the stuff was there. You have to remember, like, he's like 21 or something. Like, he's really young, and I don't know how old he is, but very young. And he's got a live arm. He's got great stuff. So they're gonna develop him, and he's a great asset. So it's tough to lose him, but then again, I mean, you get Snell. They have a lot of really good starters coming up, and they still have, they have Morhone, they have Gore, they have another good pitcher, and I don't know who it is, and it's really annoying. I don't think they have Shane Baz. I think the Rays have him, but they have another high pitching prospect, and I don't know who it is, and it's really annoying. So they have a lot of young arms, and obviously they could use him, but I think Snell is a greater get for that. And then their other prospect, I don't know much about him, but I know he's 14 in their system, and he looks like he has pretty good stuff. And then the other guy I also don't know anything about. But overall, I think it's a good trade for both sides. I guess it's enough for Blake Snell. I don't know, though. I mean, if I were the Red Sox and I traded Blake Snell for that, I'd probably be pretty happy if Blake Snell was on my team. Just because I'm kind of scarred from the Mookie Betts trade and how we got one top 100 prospect for future Hall of Famer. You also have to remember, I mean, Snell was really good this year, but the year before he wasn't that great. Obviously, the year before that he won the Cy Young, so he still kind of has to assert some of his dominance. But then again, I think he's a top 10 pitcher. But overall, I mean, it's just hard to say who won the trade. I guess the Padres won. It's just hard to say Tampa won because, like, I don't know what their rotation is going to be now. I don't understand why they didn't pick up Charlie Morton's option, and why they, it's just they're going to have Glass now. They're going to have Yarborough, Yanni Chirinos, McClanahan. But it's just not like, when you're a World Series contender and you trade down, I don't really understand that, because that's the goal, is to win a World Series. They do need a catcher, though. They do need production out of that position, but I don't think Patino can, like, be as effective as Blake Snell, but he's going to make an immediate impact, too. So it's going to be interesting to see how this trade pans out, but overall, shout out to San Diego. I mean, they're getting great return for the prospects they're trading, which is what you want to see. And this is a good deal. So moving on to the next trade, it is Darvish and Victor Caratini for Zach Davies, and the 1 through 15. The 11 through 15 prospects in the Padres system. So obviously this contract is a salary dump, like everyone's talking about. The Padres are picking up Darvish's salary, which is very hefty, for a couple of more years. And they're giving away, like a decent amount of return. I've thought about this trade a lot, and it's really hard to say, like, who got the better return and who got the better value, because Darvish was great this year and almost won the Cy Young, but the year before he was a mess. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this pans out. First I want to say Davies is a great starter. I think he's underrated. He always has a good ERA. He has good stuff, and he's gonna be a nice piece for the Cubs. So already you have Davies and you have like Darvish. So I mean, Davies isn't that bad of a replacement for you, Darvish. He's never gonna be like a Cy Young pitcher, but he's gonna be pretty consistent. I mean, he's gonna have like a 3.15 ERA with a couple of wins. That's Zach Davies. And then in terms of the prospects, I know I believe the shortstop prospect is very underrated. I've heard from a lot of people in my sports analytics club, and he's someone to watch. But besides for that, it's just a, kind of rebuild of the farm system. I don't understand why they trade Victor Caratini and put him in this deal. I think it's great for the Padres, but it is also a problem because it tells me that Luis Campusano is not ready for the big leagues yet. But nonetheless, I guess they didn't have a backup catcher, and now they have Nola and Caratini for their two catching platoons, which is really good. For the Cubs, it's interesting because I think if you're gonna make a trade and you're gonna give away somebody, you give away Darvish. Now teams know that you're rebuilding, and when you're like, hey, you want Anthony Rizzo, teams are now going to be like, oh, well, you're rebuilding and you want to get rid of him, so we'll take him. We're not going to give up very much. I think that's a little bit of a problem. But, it's going to be really tough to rebuild this roster for the Cubs because of that prospect pool. I mean, they don't have a very good prospect pool. And they have a lot of mediocre assets, not great assets, besides for Baez. Rizzo's a pretty good asset. I think he's also on a big contract. Bryant has just been so inconsistent. It's hard to call him, a strong asset. And besides for that, I mean, and Contreras, they'll get some prospects for Contreras, but if you make this Darvish trade, I feel like you have to rebuild because you're lying to yourself if you think your team has a chance to win with the starting rotation. You can't do it, right? We got to go back to the fundamentals of baseball. You gotta have 2 or 3 really solid starters to win a division and to win a World Series. To win a World Series, you have to have 3 really good starters. That's a fact. But the Cubs have 0 really good starters. Zach Davies is good, but he's not really good. I mean, they have like 4 starters on their team, right? John Lester's not even on their team anymore. So they're gonna have to tear it down and get some assets for their guys because I don't think this core can win anymore. It's too bad, but they got their World Series, and I think you got to just move on now. And it's too bad, but that's how it is. Overall, I mean, for Darvish, that's like it's not a bad return. I mean, you get Davies, who's like a decent MLB starter, and then 11 through 15 prospects. I mean, you get 5 pretty solid prospects that are high up in the Padres prospect system, which is elite. So that's pretty good for you, Darvish. You also dump his contract. In terms of the Padres, again, a step towards, I don't know if they're a World Series contender, but definitely a playoff contender, and definitely a dangerous team. So hats off to them. Great move. And, now they got Snell, Lamet, Darvish, Paddock, Luke Casey, Mackenzie Gore, and then Mike Clevenger, who will come in. Also have Morhone, which means that you can use Morhone more out of the bullpen now, which is big, because they are a little decimated in the bullpen. That's a little harsh, but, they could use some help in the bullpen. So, overall, good moves by the Padres. You get Blake Snell and you get Yu Darvish, who were two of the best pitchers last year, and predominantly pretty good, or perennially pretty good, and you give up Patino, Mejia, and 6 top 15 prospects. So you're giving up a lot of prospects, but at the same time, you kind of have to start initiating that thought of winning and contending, right? Because they've been rebuilding for so long, you just gotta start getting that train in motion, because they have the team now to contend. So overall, I think it's a great step towards winning for the Padres. And yeah, those are my opinions. Thanks for watching, and next video is going to be after this about Jose Alvarado. Thank you.